Nvidia's gone crazy. Before that, this video is brought to you by AliExpress. Why pay more? AliExpress has great deals on tech-related products this holiday season during their 2022 AliExpress Double 11 Global Shopping Festival, with discounts up to 90% from November 1st to November 12th on products like the Hagibis USB-C docking station. If you're someone who works with cameras, video, or just likes transferring lots of files, this docking station is the perfect option with an SD and micro SD card reader, M.2 slot, USB 2 and 3.1 Type A ports, an aux port, two 4K 60 FPS compatible HDMI ports, a 100-watt Type-C power delivery port, two USB-C ports for connecting PCs, an Ethernet port, buttons for changing the colors, brightness, and modes for the LEDs, and two more USB 3 ports in the front. I personally used this docking station recently to transfer many files from my previous PC's Windows M.2 drive, and thanks to the docking station, it was made incredibly easy and fast since I was able to just plug it in and transfer my files at about 1 GB per second over the Type-C connection. So what are you waiting for? Go click the link in the description below and apply these discount codes to save big on your next purchase. So if you keep up with hardware news, I'm sure at this point you've heard that Nvidia has indeed decided to cancel the launch of the RTX 4080 12GB, which was honestly fantastic news for gamers since this rebranded RTX 4070 was absurdly priced at $900, and even worse, it was insulting that Nvidia thought we were dumb enough to fall for that classic bait and switch. So when I heard the news, like many others, I was really happy that Nvidia realized they went too far and decided to correct their insanely anti-consumer behavior, but they shouldn't be getting a pass for the RTX 4080 16GB, and unfortunately it seems like a lot of people are giving them that pass, because we do have to remember that the 4080 16GB is just like any other previous generation 80 class GPU. There's nothing special about this one that would make it that much more expensive to produce, at least in my opinion. And honestly guys, I'm gonna talk about the pricing of the 80 cards in just a moment here, but first let's talk about just how absurd $1,200 is right now, because yes, not only is this the first time we've ever seen an 80 class GPU at that absurd of a price level, but on top of that, $1,200 at this point in time just simply makes no sense whatsoever, because yes, it's nice that we're getting 16 gigabytes over the 10 gigabytes that we got last time, but just for 6 gigabytes more VRAM to get nearly double the price on the card just simply doesn't make any sense, especially considering that we're heading into a recession, and I'm just not so sure there's going to be as many people who are going to be willing to purchase this card. Not only that, but there's no mining going on really right now, so I just don't see why Nvidia believes that they can charge $1,200 for the 4080 16GB. Now with the 4090, yes, $1,600 is an absolutely ridiculous price to be asking for a GPU, but the 4090 is the top-end flagship GPU, and honestly, in my opinion, although it is ridiculous, if they want to charge a ludicrous amount for their absolute flagship GPU, and there's people out there who want to pay for it, whether or not they need it for work or something else, I don't think that bothers me quite as much as an 80 class or 70 class GPU going up severely in price, because those cards are supposed to be attainable by the average person. You should be able to save up and purchase a 4080 or at least a 4070, and if they're $900, $1,000, $1,200, that's just something that's not going to be possible or reasonable for a lot of people. Maybe you could save up and buy a 4080 or 4070, but it's just so expensive that you can't really justify it, and that's what makes me pissed off, guys, because these are cards that you should be able to purchase. You should be able to buy a PC and put in the graphics card that you want to buy into that PC, and it seems like Nvidia is just pricing things so high that that's no longer going to be a reality for a large sector of the PC space who could have previously afforded a 70 class or 80 class GPU. So yeah, that definitely is a little bit frustrating. But honestly guys, what makes it even more ridiculous is if we go ahead and look at previous 80 class GPUs and compare it to the price we have now. Now I do want to let you guys know that yes, there's definitely been inflation, so a GTX 580 today probably wouldn't cost the same as it did back then, but that also doesn't mean it should be twice the price today. So let's go ahead and start off by talking about the GTX 580, as this card came in at an MSRP of $500. Now next we have the 680, which also came in at $500. Then we had the 780 at $650, which at the time people were very angry about. Then we had the 980 at $550, the 1080 at $600, which did end up actually dropping in price eventually, the 2080 at $700, the 3080 at $700, and then all of a sudden we get the 4080 at $1,200. And yeah, this is where things start to not make any sense, because as you can see, there was a trend of creeping prices for a while, and it was something that was pissing people off, but I would say that it wasn't like way too far out of bounds when you compare it to, say, inflation. I mean, going from maybe $500 all the way back with the 580 to $700 today isn't that bad overall. Honestly, it's probably not too far above what the inflation numbers would put you at, so Nvidia's making a little bit more money, but it's nothing too disgusting. But then all of a sudden, when you move to the 4080 and it goes to basically double the price in one generation, now it doesn't make any sense, and now this is just Nvidia being, in my opinion, incredibly greedy. I just don't see any reason as to why they should be doing this, and yeah, it's just absurd. It's absurd to be paying $1,200 for an 80 class GPU. So overall, guys, I just want to say that none of this makes any sense. Honestly, at this point, I think Nvidia thought that they could get away with these prices, but I think we should teach them that no, they can't get away with these prices. So if you're considering buying a 80 class GPU for the 40 series right now, I highly suggest that you take a look at some 30 series cards, some Radeon cards in the RX 6000 series, or maybe even just wait to see, what you can get from AMD, because honestly, I think this is Nvidia pushing the boat out way too far, and if we continue to allow them to get away with this behavior, Lord knows how expensive the PC market is gonna end up getting. So we should not give them a pass for this, and I think we should definitely be avoiding the RTX 4080 16GB, because although it maybe isn't quite as atrocious as the 4070 was at $900, it's still really not a whole lot better, and I really do believe that we should band together and avoid purchasing this card. So if you agree with that sentiment, I highly suggest that you share this video with your friends and tell them not to buy the 4080 16GB, because honestly, in my opinion, it's a total ripoff. I'm sure the card itself is great, but at $1,200, it is pushing the boat out way too far. Now, I do agree that inflation has probably been a lot more severe in the last couple of years than we've ever seen before. Now, the numbers they're throwing out probably aren't correct. It seems like things are about 30% more expensive. So let's say that the 4080 16GB was $900. Well, that'd be about 30% more expensive than $700. At $900, yes, it's still too expensive, but it's maybe a little bit more reasonable than $1,200. So that's my opinion on that, and hopefully Nvidia in the future decides to become a little bit more reasonable with the pricing of their GPUs. But hey, that's just what I think. How expensive do you think the RTX 4080 16GB should really be? Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and of course, I'll see you in the next video. If you made it to the end of the video, be sure to drop a like. Every time you do so, AMD and Nvidia release new GPUs. Also, if you want to see more, check out one of these related videos. You won't be disappointed.